Is everyone familiar with Airbnb? So what I find interesting to note here is the length of time it's taken them to rise and tracing that through to the technology innovations that enable their business model. So open source software about 1997 collapsed the cost of getting started developing a technology-based business model. Cloud computing 2006 collapsed it even further. Now you don't have to buy even computers to run it on, you just rent them using your credit card from Amazon. Social networks are what Uber and Airbnb depend on to get connectivity between people, replacing traditional supply chains and marketing channels. APIs open up those social networks and allow you to build apps on top of them. This is how games spread on Facebook, by using an API to access your list of friends and connections and spread to them. And the always-on internet-connected smartphone, the most important feature of the Apple iPhone when it was launched in 2007. 1 year later, Airbnb was founded. 7 years later, they've got more than 100,000 or more hotel rooms available than Hilton took 100 years to build. I think about 0.05% the number of employees, and market capitalization, last time it was estimated, about 50% of Hilton's. Now, these are not comparable business models. Airbnb don't own any assets, Hilton do. And there's a question I'll come back to later, which is if that much value is created by that small amount of people, how well is that business model addressing social mobility? I would contend it's not, and we'll come back to that point. It's interesting to note that the first trial of the technology that enabled the Oyster card was also 8 years before it was launched. So there's something about this time period that's interesting. Makes it interesting to ask what's been invented since 2007 that's not quite disrupting things to this effect, but is about to. And that's where I get interested on Amey's behalf, because things like this are starting to indicate why they might disrupt the infrastructure industry. So these are two uses of drones. In one case, to visually scan this chateau in Switzerland, I think it is, and produce an accurate 3D model of it. In this case, and I find this astonishing, these autonomous drones are tying together a rope bridge. They're flying in and out of scaffolding, carrying ropes, tying knots in those ropes, not getting tangled up in the knots. And soon you'll see a set of people walk across it. Same token here, you can see this, this 3D model being built. I showed these as like an energizer in an innovation workshop to one of our facilities management accounts, thinking that it would just sort of give everyone a laugh, break them out of their way of thinking. And before I knew it, we were arranging to use drones to do trials of gutters at height, because it would be cheaper and much safer than sending people up ladders to do it. Another reason we're looking at how we can exploit these disruptions is because if we don't, they'll happen to us. This is IKEA Hackers. It's independent of IKEA, but it's an online community of people who realise that IKEA's self-assemble modular furniture is effectively a platform for innovative construction. They share plans for building new pieces of furniture using pieces from IKEA kits. So they've got the same sort of business model as Facebook. They just don't know it yet, although I dare say that at least their branding people have probably found this site and tried to do something about it by now. So that brings me to talking a little bit about how in Amey we're trying to address some of these opportunities and challenges, and then I'll sort of spread back to some general themes afterwards. So if you don't know Amey, we employ about 22,000 people, mostly in this country, delivering services to public sector and regulated industries. And around this little infographic of a city, you can see that we mend holes in the road, we collect domestic and commercial waste, we perform secure prisoner transfers, we manage buildings such as hospitals and schools, local authority buildings. We run the Docklands Light Railway, we run traffic management centres, so incredible variety of things that keep cities going every way. And one of the reasons I moved from IBM to Amey to pursue what's become a passion around smart cities is that in IBM we had to try and find a customer for this stuff. In Amey, all we need to do is invest a bit of technology to let those 22,000 people do what they do a little bit differently and more cleverly, and all of a sudden we're contributing to a smart city. So this is one example where we have a business case to create the sort of technology platforms that underlie those aspirational visions of all our local authority customers. So this is in Hampshire, where we're responsible for managing the roads, and we've built a platform that integrates all of the information we know about issues to do with the roads, about related work being undertaken by utility companies. We've got an app where people can crowdsource information about the road surface and send it to us, and it can take cost out of our operations, because it means when someone phones up the call centre, and reports an issue on the road, we can immediately tell, because it's visually represented, whether we already know about that issue and what we're planning to do about it. Without this sort of technology, we often get 3 or 4 duplicate calls for inspections sent through to the inspection team, and that adds an awful lot of cost. This is a trial that's recently completed. We're then looking at the business case to carry on and complete it. So what I really wanted to focus on here was this is just a really straightforward business case, take cost out of our operations. What it pays for is a platform that's got technology about a place in it, not just operational data, but data about schools, houses, communities, etc. That then becomes interesting in different ways. We're then looking at how we can open up some of that data to people who can help us use it more intelligently.
Hi, I'm Priya from D4SC, and this is our team working on Changeify Smarter Streets. I'd like to tell you about our platform Changeify, which is an on-demand social network bringing together citizens and service providers who want to transform cities to solve urban challenges in real time. So how does it work? I'm a cyclist, and every day I see issues in the road infrastructure. I would love to use my intelligence along with the sensor data in the cities to solve these urban challenges in real time. We are the second generation platform that aggregates data from multiple sources, prioritizes data, and then filters that data and creates real-time feedback loops between the service providers and the citizens in order to save money, time, and effort.
The way we engage with each other is changing, and that applies not just to individuals but to corporations as well. And what I love about working with Changeify is that they really understand how that engagement works online and how that online engagement relates to engagement in the real world.
What Changeify offers is a platform that allows and encourages real-time information linked to the people of a particular place. And so it takes the kind of abstract and the slightly kind of infrastructural smart and turns it into something which is essentially very much more about individual people and their views and their interfacing with the city. And that, we think, is very special.
This market is worth 4.3 billion, and we at Changeify want to save service providers money by getting the fixer and the reporter together in order to create win-win for both of them. So join us on our quest to bring humans and sensors in order to create better cities.
There we go. So what I love about that project is Design for Social Change, who's Priya's organisation, are going to design an online tool for us that's way more engaging than we'd be able to develop for ourselves, way more engaging than one of the big tech providers will do. They're a small, agile SME supported by Innovate UK, so they're going to do it extremely cost effectively. But Priya has a background, as do her team, not just in social media, but in proper telecommunications infrastructure. So they get scalability, they get integration. They also get, it's probably not wholly obvious from that video, what the need to engage with the community of cyclists in Plymouth where we're going to go run that trial, because unless you motivate those people by going out and meeting them, being part of their community, they're not going to choose to use that app. So you get the whole package in one go. And that for me is one of the really exciting things of working with Amey. We have a business case that opens up information. We then have the attitude that we'll cooperate and collaborate with small-scale innovators, local innovators often, to add value around that platform to the communities that we serve. And just to give you a little bit more insight into why that data can be so interesting. When we're responsible for planning works in an area, obviously we need to understand what works need to be done, what materials are required, we need to route work teams around those. So it's all very operational and to do with assets. But oftentimes the business process associated with signing off the works plan includes the imperative to assess the social, economic and environmental impact and disruption that those works will cause. So that means we don't just have operational geospatial asset data in there. You have social and demographic information that has to go in that platform. Economic information has to go in that platform. So as well as understanding all of these infrastructure issues, we can work with our local authority partners, or we can open up to local innovators to understand all sorts of issues like this, turn it into a community observatory. How many families in the region are affected by rat runs and busy roads? Which businesses and employers are likely to be causing that traffic? We can start to understand answers to those questions. How well served by infrastructure are the most vulnerable families? How closely connected are they to things like shops that sell fresh food, to banks where they can have a bank account? So there's all